I'd like to call the Tuesday, May 5th, 2015 Papillion City Council meeting to order. Mrs. Butler, would you please take the roll?
Florence. Here. Mumgard. Here. Gaines. Here. Glover. Here. Jaworski. Klug. Stubbe. Here. Ingberg. Here.
Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And do we have an affidavit of publication on file?
That is correct.
And a current copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the back of the council chambers. Mr. Hoynes, administrator's report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Well, start my report this evening with good news and bad news. The good news is we're very, very busy and have a lot of ongoing projects. The bad news is it's a very competitive bid environment out in the construction world right now. There's 3 projects in particular. In the last couple of months, you've authorized us to go to bid. We went to bid, opened the bids, and in some instances they were as high as 35% above the estimates with only one bidder on all 3 instances. So those 3 projects are the 108th Street and Schramm Road was actually 34% over. And by way of reminder, that's a cooperatively funded project with us, Sarpy County, the adjacent SID. The second bid that was over was the Walnut Creek Trail project connecting the Summit Ridge neighborhood to the Walnut Creek recreation area. And the third bid that came in over substantially was the 84th Street Bridge repairs, cooperative with the India partnership. So I've been working with, Marty and Jeff, and they've been working with our various partners, and we've come to the conclusion that in 2 of those 3, there's a need to rebid that, and that would be on 108th Street and Schramm Road and the Walnut Creek Trail. Our thought is that if we rebid those for later in the summer and early fall, there's still a chance we can get those in this year. It'll be a more competitive environment, and quite frankly, we don't have enough money to pay our share, or the other entities don't have enough money to pay their share because of that environment. The third project, the 84th Street Bridge, that's a project that's funded under the Department of Roads Maintenance, at least their portion of that, and if they must expend that or they lose it at the end of the year, and then we go to the end of the line again. And so we're working with NDOR to find funding mechanisms. They think they have one, and we've got some additional funds from one smaller project. So, unless we receive different direction from the council, I know it's unfortunate we waited for 108th Street for a very long time, but we've looked at it in multiple ways, and there's just no way to do it without a cause and effect in our budget, because we're talking, quite frankly, hundreds of thousands of dollars on those 3 projects of amendments. They're just not small projects. So hopefully we get those rebid here by mid to late summer and get somebody on in the fall. We can make substantial progress on those. And I tell you that because we have other projects that we're getting ready to bid too, and it's just an extremely competitive bid environment compared to the 15 years that I've been around, that you can get multi-million-dollar projects in one bidder on them in Sarpy County. So good news, a lot of activity. Bad news, it's simple economics, supply and demand, and it's very tough. One other project that's been out in the forefront is the Veterans Park project. We continue to partner with the Community Foundation on the design, and with Councilmember Ingberg and Councilmember Gaines. We had a meeting with those 2 council members today to look at some final details. City engineers working to finalize those designs and make some placements. The end goal there is, at this point, we're phasing that project, and our hope this year is that we can get the flat work, or most of the flat work, in before Veterans Day this year, again, depending on bids, and that bid will come up to you, if not the next meeting, the following meeting. And also the American Legion and several other entities have stepped up to fund the 9 flagpoles that are part of that particular design. So we'll continue to work on that project. From a legislative perspective, we've spoken with you several times about the impact of the frozen boundaries on the economic development efforts of the city of Papillion. Late last week, we received a call from the Springfield superintendent, and throughout the day verified what he was telling us was very accurate, that it appeared at this point in the legislative session, the last proposed amendment by Senator Sullivan, chair of the Education Committee, was to give a one-year moratorium on the common levy. Sarpy County school districts over the course of the common levy have lost about $17 million, and that would continue. And our frustration has always been, if you remove the common levy, you remove the incentive to move the boundary lines. But after discussing it through, also opposing the common levy hurts our own school district. And so we're in a bit of a quandary there. And if nothing happened, then that's bad for all of us. If they remove the common levy, I think we've had some good faith assurances, certainly from the two school districts, that there was a willingness to move those boundary lines. And so with that information and leadership of Mayor Black, we did write a letter to the governor, and the various senators have been involved in that, and removed our objection to the removal of the common levy without a boundary adjustment. We did that in good faith and, quite frankly, in support of our local school districts, in hopes that, something's going to be better than nothing. So I bring that up to you and tell you that because you all know other elected officials, and that is a little bit of a change in direction that we've had over the last couple of years. But just quite frankly, nothing was going to happen, and I'm not sure that it's still that anything will happen this year. But if you have any contacts or information as an elected official, I'd encourage you to leverage those contacts and encourage the removal of the common levy, because for 7 years, those boundaries have been frozen, and we all know it's not going to develop until something happens. So, a more positive note, I'd like to announce that as of, I think today, Chief Lyons is a tax-paying citizen within the city of Papillion. I think he's having his pods delivered tomorrow. He spent his anniversary away from his wife yesterday, and the kids are finishing up school down in Kansas, and by the end of the month, Chief, they'll join him up here. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind, and I'm not sure Julie's going to let him keep working the 14-hour days he's been working the last couple of months. But so welcome officially as a tax-paying citizen, paying part of your own salary, Chief. Concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
The officers in the department probably don't want him working 14-hour days. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilman Stubbe.
Second.
Second by Councilman Gaines. Do we have any proponents? Do we have any opponents? Mr. Glover.
Mayor, I'd like to pull C7 and C9.
C7 and C9 are pulled. Do we have any opponents? Any council discussion? Please vote on everything except C7 and C9.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Next is item C7, Resolution R150090, a resolution to approve a special designated liquor license applications for Twisted Vine for a sip and walk event at Dingman's Collision Center, the Bell Place Shops, Kajamas Boutique, Your Country Connections, A2O Contracting, Jeans Auto and Truck Service, Papillion Antiques and Emporium, Absolutely Her, and Northwoods Cheese House on May 29, 2015 from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Councilman Glover. Second by Councilman Ingberg. Do we have proponents? Mr. Eric Gardner. We have a short agenda tonight, so a good opportunity to give a commercial.
Unfortunately, I didn't come prepared, but
that's all right.
Good evening, everyone. This is now our fourth go at the Sip and Walk events. So on May 29th from 6 to 9 p.m., we intend to have all the businesses listed participate in the event. We're hoping for good weather, spacing out the events a little bit this year, not back-to-back like we did with the first go-round. So we expect a pretty good turnout, and appreciate your continued support and hope to see most of you out there. So.
Thanks for everything you're doing with the Downtown Business Association, too.
Thank you.
A lot of cooperation. Any questions for Mr. Gardner? He is the applicant. Do we have any other proponents? Do we have any opponents? Any council discussion? Please vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Thanks again for doing that. Next is item C9, Resolution R150095, a resolution to approve a special designated liquor license for Players Keno, Inc., doing business as Jerseys for a Memorial Day celebration on May 24th, 2015 from noon to 2 a.m. Is there a council member that will introduce? Motion. Motion by Councilman Gaines. Do we have a second? Second by Councilman Ingberg. Do we have any proponents? I know the applicant is here.
Yeah, we're actually going to try to amend this again.
Can you give your
Yep.
name for the record?
Vince Bellino, Jersey Sports Bar. So what we're looking for is an amendment for 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. for the liquor license, and checking the boxes of beer, wine, and distilled spirits.
Give that time again.
7 a.m. to 2 a.m.
2 a.m.
Did I say p.m.?
Okay.
Excuse me. We understand that we can't sell distilled spirits before noon, but we can sell beer and wine. So that would take place at 7 a.m. So that's what we're looking for.
Motion by Councilman Ingberg Councilman Mumgard for the amendment, and the amendment being 7 a.m. to 2 a.m., understanding distilled spirits are afternoon. Okay, is there a second on the motion? By Councilman Ingberg. Thank you. Well, you two are the grandfathers. Do we have any proponents on the motion to amend? Do we have any opponents? Any council discussion? Please vote on the motion to amend.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion to amend passes, so now we are on the motion as amended. Do we have proponents? Do we have any opponents? Any other council discussion? Please vote on the motion as amended.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next is item E1, Ordinance 1714, an ordinance to amend the budget statement to be termed the annual appropriation bill, which was adopted on November 18, 2014 by Ordinance 1702 to appropriate sums for necessary expenses and liabilities and to provide for an effective date. This is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Do we have any proponents? Do we have any opponents? I'll close the public hearing. Next is item F1, Resolution R150043, a resolution to approve the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge Number 19 FOP Union Agreement. Do we have a motion to approve Resolution R150043? Motion by Councilman Ingberg. Second by Councilman Stube. Do we have any proponents? You're not going to talk? Okay. We do have a representative of the Executive Board here if there's questions. Do we have any opponents? Any council discussion? Please vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. I do want to thank all three unions, representatives, as well as the city staff. I don't think people realize how smooth the negotiations go on all parties, and a lot of that's because of a basis of trust that I think is really high here between management and employees and elected officials. So thank you for that. All three are 4-year contracts, so appreciate that. Pass on the thanks too. Next is item F2, Resolution R150063, a resolution to approve an interlocal cooperation agreement with Sarpy County and SID 301 Southbrook for that portion of Schramm Road to be improved from Turkey Road to approximately 1/4 mile west of 108th Street. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R150063? Motion by Councilman Florence. Second by Councilman Glover. Do we have any proponents? Any opponents? Council discussion? Please vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
That's all the regular agenda items. No committees have met, I don't believe. Any comments from the floor? No comments from the floor. Any council comments? Mr. Ingberg.
Yes, Mayor. With all of the projects we have going on right now, as Mr. Hoy said, it's great, but it's also difficult. I just want to take the opportunity to thank all the department heads around this table and their staffs, because they've been balancing a lot of work for a long period of time. The quality is maintained, and I just want them to know that I do appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Last couple of weeks. Chambers had a couple events. They had their State of the County, and then also had some ribbon cuttings again in Papillion. The last one was the Essentials Natural Family Health. That was an expansion of a chiropractic practice that moved into Papillion. Mr. Hoynes and I met with the Omaha Multi-Sports Complex. They're the ones that are they were looking at Tranquility for that water facility, and they're doing site selection, and it's down to 2 sites, one in Nebraska, one in Iowa. It's not in Papillion, but they did want to meet with us to share with what they've got going on. I think indication was they're going to be making a decision pretty quick on that project. Also, we held in at Kloss Manufacturing, just on the edge of Papillion, there was a regional Boy Scout event for Pinewood Derby. Never realized how big Pinewood Derby was, and went and gave a welcome to that, and it was a big crowd, and I learned, I was telling Mr. Florence, there was a kid in Oregon that won a contest put on by the Dremel Corporation, and he was awarded an all-expense-paid trip for him and a parent to a NASCAR event. Full NASCAR, all the expenses, go behind the pits, get all the experience. They're putting the final things together, and he convinced them to send him to Papillion for the Midwest Pinewood Derby instead. Never realized it was so big. But that was held in Papillion. Thanks to everybody that came to the dedication ceremony for the new dam site as well. Mr. Hoynes, Mr. Mumgard, Mr. Sturzman, and myself, we also had a meeting with Emmanuel Trinity and Trinity Lutheran Church as we're doing planning on a potential community center. A lot of properties abut, a lot of uses kind of come together, so we want to make sure we're having some good communication with them. Sarpy County Economic Development also had their first quarter meeting, gave updates. A lot of that was the development we see. Mr. Hoynes and Mr. Gowan and I had a meeting with OPPD in regards to Veterans Park. Some of the work we have planned there starts bumping into some power lines. We want to make sure we're coordinating there, and there might be an opportunity to be burying some of those lines, which will be good. And then Mr. Hoynes and I actually met with the Eastern Nebraska Film Commissioner. Nebraska's got a film office trying to recruit films into the area for filming, so we talked a lot about what the assets are that Papillion's got. So if there's an opportunity to get some film shoots here, maybe we'll be on the radar for those. And then also attended the At Ease luncheon with the Papillion Community Foundation. That's to support the military PTSD. And then Mr. Hoynes and I had a meeting with United Cities. Most of that was legislative discussions and conversations about the sewer system south of the ridge line. We got an update from the county. I don't think there was anything new from what we've shared with you guys. It was kind of an update from Mark Wayne and what they've got going on there. Reminder, we've got a couple of DARE graduations coming up this week. If you've got ties to St. Columbakill, that's tomorrow at 1:30, and Trumbull Park is Friday at 1:30. And then we've got 3 ribbon cuttings coming up. Spin Pizza is Thursday at 4 o'clock. And then next week's got a couple. One is a doggy daycare place called Park Your Paws, Tuesday at 4, and then Pie 5 at 72nd and Cornhusker is Friday the 15th at 11:30. I think that's most of what's going on. Do we have a motion to adjourn? I was going to say nobody wants to leave. Motion by Councilman Glover, second by Councilman Gaines. Please vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. We are adjourned.